Welcome to the Super Gamer Podcast. Welcome to the new Super Gamer Podcast, episode 140. Our guest this week is a multi-instrumentalist with a love of fantasy and folk and Celtic and horror. Plays ocarina, violin, harp, lyre, kalimba, tin whistle, probably more. We have Firamiel. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
I feel like I should name this episode Know You. Because in a lot of your... It seems to be a phrase you like to use.
I do. That's true because I'm very close, a big friend of String Player Gamer, and we have this Know You thing going on all the time. If you follow me on Twitter, you're probably going to see a lot of Know You, and eventually... started going Know You with other people as well. So I guess that's pretty much a phrase that I use a lot. Yes, you're right.
So you started, violin is your first instrument, and you started that about 10 years ago?
Yes, that's correct. I should update actually, because right now I think 11 years. But I started playing violin as an adult. I was not a kid when I started, and it was my first instrument. And I started with, like, today I see the hardest one, because when I started learning other instruments, I was like, oh, okay, it's true. Violin is really hard because all the other ones that I started to pick up after, they all seemed... the ones that I tried, guys, and also I'm not like super advanced in, for example, harp and some of the other ones that I'm learning. But I was like, oh, okay, violin is hard. That's true. Just to make it sound like acceptable, it takes a lot of work. It's so easy to sound bad.
I assume, I could be wrong, and correct me if I am, but I assume it was Zelda that got you thinking, oh, I should play ocarina.
Yeah, it was the first place I heard about ocarina. It was on Zelda. But you know what? This is kind of funny, actually, because the first time I saw like a real person playing ocarina, it was not a Zelda song. It was Even Star from Lord of the Rings. And it was a video from STL, which is a very famous brand of ocarinas. They have a YouTube channel, and they have, of course, a lot of Zelda songs there. But I don't know why the first one that I saw was actually Even Star. But I knew what an ocarina was because of Zelda before that. But it's funny that the first video that I ever saw was not like, I don't know, Zelda's Lullaby or Lost Woods, I don't know, something like that.
So what is, you play a decent amount of instruments, that I would say probably aren't top of mind for a lot of people getting into music. Like, how does one get into playing the kalimba?
Yeah, that's actually, I remember it was very random. Like, I usually am very random with instruments, and I kind of feel it might get worse over time. So I don't know where I will end up eventually. But I remember one day I was browsing the internet, and when I first got my kalimba, because right now, kalimba, I wouldn't say it's super common, because I think I am inside the kalimba niche too much to judge. But I remember I saw an ad. It was an ad. The first time I saw like an ad, I was on Facebook, I think, and someone was playing that very curious instrument. I was like, what is that? It sounds a lot like a music box, but it's also like being played live. And I was very curious, and I went to look that up. And then I found out about a musician called April Young. And I think at the time, she was like the biggest kalimba channel on YouTube. It's like 5 years ago or maybe a bit more. And I was like, oh, I think I want one of this. And this is pretty much what happens with me usually. And this way I started to have kind of a, not huge, but respectable, maybe collection of instruments.
Well, I'm told you have a bit of a problem when it comes to collecting instruments, that you're running out of room, in fact.
Yeah, actually, that's actually true. Because I have like a space where I store part of my instruments that is like right under my bed, because have you seen those beds that you can like store stuff inside? My bed is one of those. So I have like some of my violins are there, and I also have like 2 lyres and a glockenspiel there. But then, I mean, I have ocarinas as well, and I have like tin whistles, and I have 2 harps, and yeah, I started to get like a bit out of control over time.
Do you have any like ballpark idea of how many instruments you own?
Oh my gosh. I think it's probably over 20, I'm sure. But I'm kind of trying to think if it's go over 30. I think no, but over 20, I'm sure. But I have some repeated ones. For example, I have 4 violins. So there's that. And also I have like 2 lyres, 2 harps, 4 kalimbas, 4 ocarinas. So I have like repeated instruments. But even then, a lot of types, I think over 6 types for sure, but a lot of repeated instruments.
And how many circlets do you own?
Oh my gosh, you're making like difficult questions, because you know what? A few years ago, the circlets that I wear like now for my videos or my live streams on Twitch, they are mostly stuff that I buy on the internet. But a few years ago, I used to have an online like mini shop. Like it was very tiny because I didn't have the capacity to like make a lot of them. But I used to sell like handmade crowns. And so I still have quite a few from this time when I used to sell them. And then there's the ones that I bought after that. So, oh my gosh, you are making difficult questions, Mark.
Before we go on to other things, I do want to mention that you are on a mission to hit 1,000 YouTube subscribers by the end of the year. Just before starting this interview, I checked. You're currently at 652. You already are over 1,000 people on Twitch. Why spread yourself out? What is it about YouTube you want to promote?
Yeah, I think Twitch. There's something about Twitch that it's a bit tiring, I would say, because you only get to meet new people, and people only get to meet your work on Twitch when you're live. When you're not live, you pretty much don't exist on Twitch. So YouTube has this appeal of your content is always there. For example, even for people like for videos, that I made a lot of, I don't know, like 2 years ago or something like that, they are still relevant. I still get people to find my channel because of these videos, but that is not true for Twitch. You have to always like be live. So over time, this can become like tiring, and it's becoming harder to be found on Twitch, to be honest, because when I started streaming on Twitch, it was September 2020, and the music streaming session of Twitch was not as big as it is now. So right now, to get new people to meet my channel, it's very hard. So because I really do want to get more people to see my covers and stuff like that, I think I really need to grow an alternative to Twitch.
Right. Well, speaking of sort of spreading yourself out, so you are, of course, Firamiel, but you used to be the geek violinist, and you also have Isabel's Lullabies.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So
Yes.
why change from geek violinist to Firamiel, and why separate that from Isabel's Lullabies?
Okay. So on Isabel's Lullabies is more like a place where I just share very simple tabs. Kilimba, actually. First, let me explain to people what is Kilimba. So there is an app. I think my phone is Android, but I think it probably works on Apple too. But it's called Kilimba, and it's a free app that you can download and use on your phone. There are just some resources that are paid, but it's free. And it's like a virtual kalimba that you can play on your phone with your thumbs using the touch screen of your phone. And normally I sometimes, like when I'm doing other stuff, for example, I don't know if I'm on the bus or if I'm on a line, I don't know. Usually when I feel like I have some free time, I like to play on this app. So I started to like do some simple stuff on the app, and I really like this app. It's very good. I recommend it, at least for people who like to have something that they can still do music with. I don't know. And I started to make these very simple tabs. And Zabel's Lullaby is more focused on that, just kalimba and simple tabs. It's more, let's say, I think it's more educational, because I know a lot of people search for educational content on YouTube. And I used to search for a lot of educational content as well when I was starting to play violin. So I feel like I don't know, it's kind of a way to share something with people. And I feel like it helps people because they can like learn simple songs that maybe it's easier for me to learn than for someone that has no musical background and is just trying to figure out the notes by themselves. I feel it's more like that for the Isabel's Lullabies. About the change from, yes, my old username of my channel was Geek Violinist, and it was also the username that I used to use when I started streaming on Twitch in 2020. But over time, I started to feel like this username was not reflecting what I wanted to do with my stream and also with my YouTube channel anymore, because I started to play other instruments. So the violinist part started to be, I don't know, it's not that I don't play violin anymore, but I mean, a lot of times if you see my covers, sometimes violin is like not the main instrument. Sometimes ocarina is the main instrument, or tin whistle. And also my favorite thing is like fantasy music, medieval stuff. And I was like, I don't know, I feel like I wanted to have online name for my project that reflected that, something like more fantasy. And so I decided to change for this name, which, by the way, is a name that I already used as like a nickname on an online game called War Spear that I used to play. And I had this character that was an elf druid character, and the name of my character was Firamiel. I was like, oh, I don't know, I could use this as my like project name, my musician online name, something like that. And I really I don't feel like I'm going to change this name. Guys, you don't need to get ready for another name change. I think this reflects pretty well what I feel like is my niche, I would say. Yes.
Yeah, it's a fantasy character name. It definitely conveys, the medieval tavern that you're trying to bring people to.
Yes, I think so as well. I'm happy to hear that you also feel this way, because imagine if you said, "Oh, I don't know why you chose that. That makes me think of nothing. What a nonsensical name."
Well, I know you're a Final Fantasy fan, and Fire, that's one of the spells.
Yes.
I thought, maybe that has something to do with it.
Yes, that's true. That's true. I also had that a bit in mind when I was trying to Miel ending. Of course, comes from Tolkien names, stuff like Galadriel and stuff like that. But the Fira, I would say, came more from something to do with fire and stuff like that. So you are not wrong in thinking about Final Fantasy.
Well, speaking of Final Fantasy, you have listed that your some of your favorite games, you listed I think 6 of them, and 3 of them were Final Fantasies. They were 10, 8, and 6. And
That's true.
It is customary on this show to question anyone who feels that 8 was one of the better Final Fantasies.
Oh my gosh.
Which I tease, of course, but it's certainly a polarizing game in the series.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I don't know if I think it was one of the best in terms of the way it worked in playing, let's say, but I think I got too attached to the characters. I feel it's more that than the structure of the playability, and I don't know. I think it was more about the characters for me for this game, yes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Well, I mean, like I say, I'm just teasing. There were, like you say, there were parts I definitely thought were, whoa, this does not work. But, I mean, the music is some of the most iconic, I think. I love Triple Triad, the card game.
Yes.
So
I think there are great aspects, but I do understand why people feel like this is weird, let's say, in a lot of aspects as well. But also, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm sold out by the characters and the music for sure, because it was amazing. Although, I mean, Final Fantasy music is always amazing. I thought you were going to say, oh, you like Final Fantasy and you never covered any song from Final Fantasy, which is true. I never did, which is a bit weird. I really want to cover something from Final Fantasy maybe next year. I don't know why I haven't.
Well, I do wonder, you are a big fan of horror. You have a lot of horror books, for example. But yeah. I don't believe you listed any horror game in your favorite games list, and you don't really cover a lot of horror music either.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know why, but for games, I don't know why. I think it's probably more about what you look for when you are playing a game. I usually play stuff more like Final Fantasy or The Witcher or Dragon Age. I like to play stuff like that. I mean, Witcher, out of these ones that I just mentioned, I think Witcher is borderline horror in some parts, but still not an horror game. I watch a lot of horror movies, so I don't know why, but for games, I think probably it's because I like books and movies, horror books and movies, but games is something that you play for a lot of hours, and then I feel maybe, I don't know if I want to get too immersed in horror. I don't know, it's a weird thought, actually. I don't know, but I eventually will try to play something horror. Let's see.
What is it about Irish mythology that resonates with you so much?
I think it always appealed to me first. I mean, Irish things in general, first because of the music, and then I started to read some books, some Celtic fairy tales, and I really enjoyed them. I like fairy tales in general, like especially the older versions of them, which, to be honest, they really have the Witcher feel in them. If you have read any of the older versions of the fairy tales that we get exposed to the Disney versions late, and the Disney versions are obviously like milder versions. But I like fairy tales in general and mythology in general, but Irish mythology is very, very lovely. I don't know. There's something about that I like it. The leprechauns and the banshees and stuff like that. But to be fair, I like mythology in general. When I have opportunity to read from, for example, from my country as well, from Brazil, there are a lot of very interesting like mythology here as well. So I would say I like Irish one, but I like it in general as well from other countries when I get exposed to it. I think I just happen to get more exposed to the Irish one. One of the reasons actually is a Brazilian band that it's called Tuata de Danann, which used to make a lot of songs about Irish mythology. And the name also comes from Irish mythology.
Okay. I ask mainly because my dad is Irish, like from Ireland, and you mentioned banshees there, and it just made me remember when I was a kid. We so if a banshee screams at your house, that means someone in the house is going to die. Like
it's going to die.
Yeah,
yes.
Obviously you know that. But so I remember as a kid, I don't know if you've ever heard a cat like in heat, like screaming or like.
Yes, it can be very scary.
Yeah. So there was one outside, I guess, and my dad like genuinely was concerned. It's like there's a banshee at the door. Like,
oh my gosh. Oh, I can imagine that must have been stressful.
like he doesn't obviously really believe that stuff, but there was like a part of him that was just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't want to generalize, but they say that the Irish people can be a bit superstitious. I am not sure if it's true or not. You can, of course, know better than me, but I think my people from my country, I consider superstitious, to be honest, because there are a lot of very silly stuff that people, oh, I don't believe that. But then when you look, the people, oh, I will not do that because it will bring bad luck. Then you're like, oh, but you said you didn't believe it.
Right. I think superstition can be fun in a way. Like, even if I don't believe something, you know, like if I break a mirror or spilling salt or whatever, you know, throwing it over the shoulder, like it's fun to kind of buy into that to some degree.
Yeah, that's true. I think if we don't take this too far, it can be a fun thing. I agree.
Getting back to streaming, so you mentioned your issues with Twitch and you're moving over to YouTube to some extent, but you're obviously not done with Twitch because just yesterday you streamed on Twitch.
Oh yes, I am not abandoning Twitch for sure. I just felt like I wanted to also grow my online presence, let's say, in a different place, which is YouTube. But I do intend to keep on streaming on Twitch. Like, usually I stream about once per week, but in some times when I have more free time, I stream a bit more, like 2 times or 3 times per week. But usually I stream once per week. So if anyone's interested in seeing some bit of fantasy music, a lot of stuff especially from Lord of the Rings, it's what I play the most on my stream, but also a lot of Final Fantasy and Zelda and Witcher. If you like that type of stuff, then check out my channel. And thank you.
Your mom is a big fan of your streaming, which I'm sure is great. But does that mean you have to be on your best behavior?
Oh, I don't know. I am on my normal behavior because yeah, I don't think there's anything that I think, for example, oh, if my mom didn't watch my stream, I would do X, or I don't know.
Right.
I don't feel like there's anything that I feel like I would do differently if she was not streaming. My stream is very PG, let's say, let's say it like that. But that is by choice and also my personality, I think. Yes.
Yeah. What's it feel like to have your mom take such an interest in this kind of thing?
Oh, it's very endearing because I know a lot of people have the opposite experience of their family like judging them harshly for streaming or for I don't know. Uh, wait, some people can see this as wasting time, or you should be doing something else, or I don't know. Or I've heard from a few people like that don't like that their sons stream because they feel like they're exposing themselves on the internet, or even I don't know, people can have some pretty weird ideas. But I think it's very nice that she does not think this way, and actually when she can, she watches a bit of my stream and stuff. Yes.
When people are donating to your stream, should they warn you first? Because you have hurt yourself a little. You've fallen out of your chair and you've banged your head on the microphone due to people's generosity and your reaction to it. So do people need to be careful when they donate to your stream?
Oh, yeah, that's actually true. And even if sometimes like I was like, "Oh, okay, I will try to not fall from my chair," but I ended up falling. Like it was not a stage thing; it was real. So yeah, I think they should be a bit careful because sometimes I get taken a bit by surprise. There was one time, but I'm glad there's like no evidence of that. So maybe I should not be revealing that. There was also one time when I cried a lot on the stream. That day was very awesome, but also a bit emotional draining because I actually cried on the stream. So, but I do know other people that also cried on the stream. It's kind of normal, I guess. I think I don't know.
You were it was happy tears, like you were crying because people were generous.
Yeah, because someone was like, "Oh, too generous," and I was extremely surprised. I was happy, but I was maybe also like didn't know how to react. I don't know, but I mean, it was in the best intentions that the person donated to my channel, but I think I didn't know how to be thankful, or I was taken like by surprise and I was crying and oh my gosh, it's okay. But I was also a bit like, after I was a bit embarrassed, like, oh my gosh, I was crying on the stream. But okay, it's okay.
Can you talk about, I know you've spoken before, I think it was on Reddit actually, can you talk about the importance of having emotes for Twitch subscribers?
Yes, I think it's very important, at least for me as I don't even mean as a streamer, but even as a, because I am a streamer, yes, but I also watch the streams of a lot of people. So I really like to have emotes to engage on the stream. I think it really helps with community building, and I think it really builds the mood for the stream. Like it brings the people in chats together. On my stream, for example, when it's the last song of the stream, normally my mods SPG, he usually say something like, oh, okay, it's time for the last song. So this is the pattern for today. And then he will come up with a pattern of emotes, and people will like spam these emotes, the same pattern. So it's a lot of fun. And I see this happening in other channels as well. So I think emotes are more important than a lot of times people realize. I really like them. Yeah.
And then I'm not sure if these are still up, but certainly in some older streams, I've noticed there's these 4 photos with ornate frames around them. And you're either like facing them or they're in the background. Are these significant in any way? I think one of them's a composer. I think one of them's of you, and I don't know what the other 2 were.
Oh, yes. These are 4 photos that I have here on my wall. There's one of me with a violin, and there's another one from a day when I was on a very nice kind of steampunk themed event. So these are 2 of them that I'm in. And then there's one from a violinist that I really like, and her name is Emily Alton. I'm not sure if you've heard of her. She was originally a classical violinist, but then she started playing other styles, and she plays electric violin mostly today. And she's also a composer, so she has her original material. And I would say she's very much into the steampunk style and usually more goth themed stuff. So yeah, and I really like her. She wrote a book as well. She's writing, I think, a play for Broadway. Let's see if this is... I think she wants it to be for Broadway. I'm not sure if it's going to be or not. But I know she was writing a music play, like a musical based on her book. She's a very creative character, and I think everything she does, she's really inspiring. The book she wrote, I really like it. And she writes poetry. I don't know. I really like everything that she does. So I find her really inspiring. Yes. And the other one is Beethoven. Yes. Which I'm not sure if he's still my favorite composer, but for sure my favorite violin concerto is by Beethoven, which is kind of an unpopular choice, but maybe it's becoming more popular over time. But people usually chose other violin concertos, but I really like his violin concerto.
And are these sort of up as inspiration? Is it something you can kind of just look up and be like, oh yeah, this keeps me going?
Yeah, they are. I think I should add more stuff now, because I have had this up for quite a while, for a lot of years. And as years pass, I started to be more influenced by folk music, folk style stuff. So, for example, if I think about it right now, I should have a picture of the bands called Faun, for example, because I really like them. They are in the folk genre, and they are German bands. And other stuff like that, because I don't really have pictures of anything folk, but for the last 5 years, I think that would represent more what I progressively became more interested in. Yes.
Do you go to a lot of Renaissance fairs? You certainly have a lot of costumes.
I do. You are you are 100% correct. I do go to a lot of Renaissance fairs, and also I am lucky because I live very near a restaurant that is medieval themed, kind of like a tavern, and I live like 2 blocks from it. So you can guess that I probably go there a lot. So I'm lucky because, I mean, right now in Brazil, more like medieval themed events are happening. I think this became progressively popular. But when I started going like 10 years ago, it was not very popular. It was very rare. And I in my region, I don't know exactly why, but like all the events started to like bloom over here. And then I think one person kind of starts doing it, and then people start going and they think it's cool, and then they want to organize another one and another one and another one. And that's pretty much what happens near where I live. So that was very lucky for me because I really like it. And so right now, we used to have like 2 medieval themed places here in my city, but one of them closed sadly during the like pandemics. But the other one's still standing. And on a city nearby here, which is bigger than the city where I live in, they have like, I think, 3 medieval themed places there. So I have quite a few places to go, and also events.
Are you known? Like, are you the bard? Do you bring any of your instruments? And people are like, "Oh, it's Firamiel."
I usually know. I take my instruments, and usually I film something real quick, and then people kind of don't know much that I am this bard. For example, the last medieval fair that I went to, I took like a mini ocarina, and then I filmed like 2 videos, and then I kind of kept my ocarina on my belt, and okay, and I went on to like enjoy the rest of the party. I think I am more like an online bard than a real life bard, I would say.
Well, as far as
Yeah.
ocarinas, I think my only until you, I only really knew of them through Zelda, right? And I was surprised at how big they actually are.
Yes.
Like, they look like almost some of them that you have in the pictures. They look like big fossils.
Oh my god. That's a funny description, but I know what you mean. Because they can vary a lot in size. If you look up, there's a wonderful ocarina player, which was actually one of the first channels that I tried to watch to learn a bit, and that's David Ocarina. He has a lot of covers, ocarina covers, and also a lot of educational ocarina content. Maybe you know him because he's very well known in the video game community. But if you don't, I really recommend it. His channel is awesome. But anyway, if you look in his channel, he has like a lot of ocarinas. I don't know how many, but well over like 50 or something. He has like a lot. And the bigger the ocarina, the lower the sound. So there are some ocarinas that are like gigantic, and you can see some really big ones, the best ones on his channel, and also on STL channel. I think there's a video that's called playing. I'm not sure if it's Wellerman or I forgot the song on a really giant ocarina or something. And oh my gosh, that's actually even funny because the ocarina is like, I don't know. I wouldn't say the size of a person, but I don't know. It's almost that. So the bigger the ocarina, the lower it sounds, and the smaller the ocarina, the higher it sounds. So I have like a very tiny one that I actually wear as a pendant. And fun fact, it actually came from Canada because the maker is from Canada. And this one is made of silver and is really, really small. And because it's small, it sounds really high. And usually when people see it, they think it's just a pendant, but it's actually a pendant and a musical instrument. It's a real instrument. Yes.
Yeah, much like your circlets and your larger instruments, you seem to have a decent number of jewelry instruments. You have your little ocarina, which is functional. You have a lyre necklace that I don't believe is functional.
No, it's not.
And you have violin earrings that I'm wondering if do they work? They look like they could.
I I tried to make them work a bit, but because they actually do have strings, the strings are made of nylon, but the sound it does not really play. But I have seen some people playing on videos on YouTube, like some really tiny violins, but they are usually like violins that are, I don't know, decor or something, and then there's someone like playing it, and it's very funny. But the ones that I have, only the ocarina is actually functional.
All right. So we're getting near the end here, but I do have a few more questions. I do want to bring up VGM Together was your first sort of big festival performance, the first time you performed in a, in a festival, I guess.
Yeah, that is true. It was my first time performing in a festival in general, because before that, my experiences playing were streaming on Twitch. And other than that, I used to play on a local orchestra here in my city, and also like in some smaller events and stuff like that. But I had never performed in a festival and in a VGM festival. So I sent my application when the applications opened, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like be able to play there, because I don't know what they are looking for. Maybe they are looking for more established artists with a, I don't know. I always tend to think that, oh, I just starting out and I don't know if I have a chance or not, but I'm going to send it. So I was very, very happy and excited when they sent me an email saying that I was going to have a spot. And they were super awesome. They helped me a lot with like online tests for the gear and everything. And it was really an awesome experience. Everyone watching was also super kind and lovely. And I hope to have more experiences to perform in this type of festivals, because it was really great.
You have done a lot of collaborations before. In particular, you collaborate quite a bit with String Player Gamer, who one could also say is your VL bearer.
Yes, that is true. That is true. SPG was one of the first friends that I made on Twitch in 2020. We were both watching a stream by a violinist on Twitch. Her name is Susan. And SPG was like, when he saw my username, which was Geek Violinist, if it was now, maybe we would not become friends. That is sad. Because he said, oh, Geek Violinist, oh, you also play violin, hello. And then we started like talking, and then one day I was streaming, and SPG, I don't remember if I went to his stream or he went to mine, and then we started talking and we became friends. And it was really nice. And then last year I started playing The Witcher. I had not played The Witcher until now. And then I was like, oh, I love the music from The Witcher, SPG. It's amazing. SPG had covered some stuff from The Witcher already. He had covered Toss a Coin to Your Witcher, which is actually from the series and not the game. But he also covered one song from the game, which was Silver for Monsters, if I'm not mistaken. And then he was like, oh, and then I like did like 2 covers of The Witcher, I think. And then SPG said, oh, I think it would be cool if we could do a cover of something from The Witcher. And then we did Merchants of Novigrad last year. And then we kept going because we planned to do like an album of Witcher covers. And until now we have made 4 of them, but we plan to do an album of them, so there will be more of them. Yes. And it's always really amazing to collaborate with SPG. Obviously, he's a great musician, composer, arranger, and he's also very, very easy to work with. We get along really well. And yeah, always a pleasure to collaborate with SPG. Yes.
And can you tell us the story of how he became your VL bearer?
Oh, yes, that's actually a really cool story because we have another friend who is also a violinist and that also streams on Twitch. His name is Nick and his channel is New Baroque. He is a classical violinist, like concert master of more than one orchestra. But not only that, he actually makes instruments. So one day I was talking to Nick and I told him about VLs, like which are like medieval, kind of like a medieval fiddle, like fiddles from the past, let's say. They look a lot like violins, but they are usually more flat if you see them from the sides, and also they are usually thicker as well. The tuning pegs are a bit different, so there are differences, and sometimes the tuning and the strings, if you want to be really authentic, you're going to use like gut strings. I don't use gut strings in mine, but if you want to go all the way, you would use gut strings. Anyway, so Nick made, after I told him about the VL, he went to like research more about it, and he made a VL for himself. And I was like, oh my gosh, Nick, I can't believe it. You made a VL for yourself, because if I remember correctly, Nicky worked on a violin shop for a while. And so he had, of course, knowledge in the area. Of course, I mean, how would he build a VL if he didn't, right? But anyway, it was an amazing instrument. And then one day, when I was talking to him, he was like, oh, I would do one for you too. But the problem is, how would this get safely to you? Because Nick lives in the US and I live in Brazil. And like sending, it's very risky. It could get here totally destroyed. I know because I have bought instruments from another country and they arrived not in a good condition here anyway. And then SPG was planning to come to Brazil. And he said, oh, I could actually take the VL to Fira, Nick, if you really want to do it. And as crazy as this sounds, this is what happened. Nick made a VL for me, which is absolutely amazing. And it's written Fira VL in the back of the instrument, actually, which was like an art made by Justin Aragon, which is Nick's mod. And also Nick made like 4 Eyes of Sorrow on the VL for me, because one of my emotes on Twitch is an Eye of Sorrow. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then SPG came and everything went all right, because I was super worried that he could, like, I don't know, maybe some problem in customs, maybe, I don't know. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? I hope I'm not like creating problems for SPG on his travel. But I'm so grateful for SPG and Nick, of course, and also so happy that everything went right and the VL got for me safely. And it's really a wonderful instrument. that I have used in 2 of my covers already and plan to use in many more to come.
That's awesome. So the last thing I'll ask is just a silly question, but if you existed in Middle-earth, describe yourself. Who would you be?
Oh, that's actually a really hard question, because my username and also my, like, really like elven sounding music and like elvish looking stuff. But if I am completely honest with you, I think I would be a hobbit. I do not think I would be an elf, because I really like to like be home and make my home a cozy place and eat good stuff and be like more in a peaceful mood. I don't know. I think I would be a hobbit and not an elf.
Well, hobbits are great.
Yeah, I agree. I love them. They are very, very, because I think elves are kind of more serious and like superior, and I don't know, kind of more regal. I don't feel like that is something that I am. I feel like I'm more like a hobbit.
I would love that. Would be if similar to how you say, well, I'd like to be an elf, but I think I'm a hobbit. I would like to be a hobbit, but I think if I'm honest, sadly, the most boring one, I think I'd be a human.
Oh. Oh yeah.
I just have too many like I'd be swayed by temptation, you know, like I have too many vices. Like I'm just so quintessentially a Middle-earth human.
Oh, I feel like I'm a hobbit. I would just want to be like home and I don't know if I should go in this adventure, but then maybe I would go and I would like, because that's pretty much what happens to the main hobbits, right? Don't know. I don't think we should leave. And hobbits are very like, they want to stay in their places and no adventures, but in the end, they are the ones that go on the biggest adventures and are really brave, surprisingly. I don't know. I really like the hobbits.
Oh, me too. And you have your odd Pippin and Merry. I mean, they're very adventurous.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. They're very adventurous, and they're also very funny. I don't know. And I think I am. I mean, I think I am funny without wanting to sometimes, which I feel like it's more hobbits as well. Like tries to be serious and ends up being funny without meaning to. I feel that's something very me. Oh.
Well, if people want to check out Firamiel on TikTok, you are Firamiel, that's FIRAMIEL.music. You are also that on Instagram. Twitch, yes. YouTube, and Twitter, you are Firamiel, just your name there. And remember, people, trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the year, so go to YouTube, follow Firamiel. Firamiel, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Let's see if this is possible. This is something more like that I was like, oh, let's throw this out there, but it's not something also, oh my gosh, I'm going to like all the way in because I need to get this. Just, I usually like, I'm someone that usually is more like, oh, I will not care about numbers, but I was like, let's see what happens. Let's throw this over here and see what happens. It was more in this spirit, I would say. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. This was a lot of fun for me. I hope you enjoyed as well.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for doing it.
Yeah, and have a great time, everyone, wherever you are and whenever you are listening to this. See you guys.